Hey, 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 welcome back to Franly Advice. Today we are breaking down something that could really make or break your virtual assistant business, and it is identifying your ideal client. So last week we talked about nailing your niche and figuring out like where you actually belong and fit in the virtual assistant land. In a sea full of people offering general admin services, you stand out by actually selecting something you want to specialize in and becoming a subject matter expert in that area instead of just being known as a general VA who will basically become almost like an employee. We're not doing that. So we learned all about that in the last episode. If you did not listen, go back before we start this one. So today we're going to talk about ideal clients. A lot of new VAs think, I just need a client to pay me. Any money will work. Any money is good. Like, you want to pay me $2? Sure, let's do it. Because you don't know what you don't know yet. And honestly, having a client that does not fit into like who you ideally would work well with, or even a client who you said, okay, maybe I'll operate outside of my niche this one time, doesn't fit your ideal client avatar, will cause you a lot more pain than it would even matter money wise. And I want you to know all clients are not created equal. So if you've ever listened to me over time, you know I've had experiences with pretty awful client relationships. I would say at one point, after working with over like maybe like 75 clients, out of 75, I had like at least 7 bad clients that weren't good fits for me. And part of it was on them, and a lot of it was on me because I would operate outside of my ideal client when I would choose these people. And whenever I did it, it never worked out because I would always be like worried about a financial target. Or I would be like, oh, if we just take this one client, maybe we could learn something new. No, no, you need to stick to who your ICA is once you figure it out. Like, love her, don't leave her, treat her the best. When you know exactly who you're serving, you'll attract better clients and create more aligned offers, and you'll also just enjoy what you do better. Let's think about like the fact that when we quit, we usually don't quit because we hated a company. We quit because we hated our boss. So our clients become sometimes mini bosses for us when we don't choose the right ones. So let's break down how to define your ideal client so you can stop guessing and like actually start getting to work with people that actually make sense for you. Okay, again, because it's more of a teachable moment, I will be on a swivel. So if you're watching, I'm looking on the right side at the screen with my notes. Let's hop to it. Who is your ideal customer? Get out the notepad. It is time to write. All right. So let's paint the picture of how I created my ideal client. I went backwards. So I had hired a couple clients first and I was like, ooh, don't love you, don't like that work. So I had to kind of start after I started my business. So it took me a lot more effort to kind of like pause in what I was doing and reimagine it. So I want to stop you from getting there right away. So let's talk about who is your ideal client. Here we want to get really specific. We don't want to just like dream up a random girl and say like, oh, I want to work with Britney Spears and all Britney Spears people. We want to get specific more so about like who these business owners are. And it can't just be like any entrepreneur. I want to work with entrepreneurs, or I want to work with any new tech startups or business coaches. A little too general. We want to like narrow it down even further. So we want to think deeper into who this person is. So the first thing you want to think about is their age. Think about the age range that you feel like you work well with. I know once I hit over about 45, I don't do well with working with people in that age range. Just me and Gen X, we don't have the same vibes. But I also don't do too well once you go below 25 because me and young Gen Z, we have very different thought patterns. And it's also more so about like the places in life a lot of us are. So my age range is from about 25 to 45 for clients that I work with. You can choose a totally different one. Yours could be like a little wider than mine, but try to stick to it because there is something about our generations that you can like see differences. Talking about my generation. But think of an age range. That's the first thing you want to think about when you're making your ideal client and bringing them to life. Number two, gender identity. Are you targeting women? Are you targeting men? Are you targeting the theys, the gays, the hims, the hers? Choose the identity that you really, the gender identity that you really want to go with, because we want to make our marketing towards this person. We want them to feel seen in everything we do and write. Now, let me stop you right here before you say like, oh, but I don't want to limit men from working with me. Creating an ideal client avatar doesn't mean that these are the only type of clients you take. This means this is your target market. This is the client you want. This is the perfect sunshiny day client. But there are other people who could fall in the range who don't like actually belong in your perfect world vision, but they still work well together. Like I am supporting one male right now in one-on-one coaching, but I typically market to girls, and everyone knows that. You can tell in the vibes I present. You can tell in how I talk, and it's like more chit-chatty, feminine energy. So choosing a gender does not limit you. It just helps you to paint the picture better when you're going in to like start the marketing part, which we'll talk about in a couple weeks. Number three, style and personality. Are they laid back, corporate, creative? Who are they? Like a lot of my clients were just former corporate girlies who were relaxed. And what I mean by that is they were the people I would have hung out with if we worked at the same office. They were the people I would have been like gung ho to call my friend after I quit my job, right? But they were still corporate girlies. And right now, my ideal client is still that same ex corporate girl. Like she may have a virtual assistant business now that she really wants to grow, but she used to run the streets of the corporate world and she called them streets as I did, right? So think about their style and their personality, like how the style could be how they speak, how they dress, how they carry themselves, and things of that nature. But really get like creative when you think them up. Nothing's wrong. Like there's no wrong answer when you come up with your ICA. This is more so, like I said, to make sure you're targeting the right person. Then number four, values. Do they need to have a similar faith to you? Or is it more so like, I just want them to strongly believe in something? I have clients who believe in the universe. I have clients who are Muslim. I've had clients who are atheists. Because for me, my Christianity wasn't a part of my ICA. It was just more so people needed to respect others' religious decisions, right? And respect the fact that I do bring up God, but not in our one-on-one coaching if he's not your God. So like thinking about it in that way. And then social justice was really important to me. People who understood why Black Lives Matter, why the glass ceiling should be shattered, why gender pay gaps are atrocious, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I think about when I think about values. And then also like, do they value work-life balance, or are they more so like hard work all the time? And you need to really think about this one, because as a virtual assistant, if you team up with a client who is like the hard worker, who believes like you just need to work harder, you need to hustle, and you're not the hustle and flow girly, don't be with that client. Because if you believe more so in like a work-life balance where your life takes priority at all times, but they believe their work is their life, it will be a headache every day, all day. Okay, anyway. And then finally, number five, their hobbies and interests. Do they love to travel? Are they into wellness? Are they like currently like taking up crocheting like some people are? Do they puzzle? Like what do they do in their fun time? Are they into trivia? What are they doing when they're not working? All right, why this matters. People buy from people they relate to. If your audience feels like you get them, they will most likely be more likely to work with you than the next person. So a lot of people who work with me, they're like, oh my God, Fran has experienced postpartum depression. I feel that. I feel seen. I want to talk to her, right? So like there's that connection factor, and some people it turns them off that I talk about these things, and that's okay. It's not about bringing everyone into your marketing lead and funnels. It's about bringing the right people in. All right. So next, we need to know what kind of business they run. And the first thing we want to think about is industry. Are they coaches? Are they agency owners? Are they influencers? Are they course creators? Are they like outside of this and they're like nonprofit organizations? Are they small startups, like tech startups? What industry are they in? And we want to become more proficient in our like understanding of those industries if that's what we want to target. For me, my target market when I was doing podcast management, it was mostly thought leaders online. So this included like influencers and sometimes business coaches, general entrepreneurs, but the main focus was that they were trying to, or they showed up as a industry leading voice, because it was much easier for me to help them cultivate a podcast that could grow if they already had an audience and I could help them activate that audience. And then number two, what stage in business are they in? Are they just starting out, or do they have they been around for a while? Are they like still trying to figure out if they need team members or not? Or are they more seasoned and they're like, I'm looking for a social media manager to start right now. This is the price range we're going with. And this is what we've done in the past, and like already have like SOPs ready. Or are they like looking for you to help them and partner with them more? Think about that. Again, in this whole exercise, there's no right or wrong answer as you go through these. Do they actually need help? This is a big one. Like I wrote it in bold for some reason, but no, not for some reason. I know why. But do they actually need help? Some business owners just think they need a virtual assistant because they see everyone on Instagram. They're like, my VA did this, my team's doing that. And they like really think it's just the next step in business, when in actuality, some people don't always need a virtual assistant. Right now, I don't need a virtual assistant. If I hire someone, it's like maybe 4 hours a month. That's not worth it. I just need to figure out how to manage my time better and manage my ADHD better until I'm actually at the point where I need a virtual assistant and have the capacity and capital to support them. You want to attract clients who are prepared to delegate, not ones who will ghost you when it's time to get started. That's a really common theme. Like people will get on discovery calls and be very, very hype. And they're like, yeah, I want to start. You send over the contract. Crickets, nothing. And it's because they don't actually know if they need help. And we want to figure that out right now when we're thinking about our ideal customers, so that when they read anything that you put out, any marketing materials, they can rule themselves out. Like you can help them identify if they're ready for you or not. And what is their main problem when it comes to their business and the needs behind their business? What is their main problem right now? So every great VA or service provider solves a problem, but we don't want to focus on the pain point. Like you probably have seen this on Instagram. People are pretty bad about it. They'll say things like, you're inconsistent and it's hurting your brand. Okay, damn, call me out then. Instead of agitating the problem, focus on offering a solution that is more no-brainer than anything. So what I just gave you the example of you're inconsistent and it's hurting your brand. Instead, you could say, imagine knowing your content is scheduled weeks in advance while you focus on what you love. And what I did with the Pod Factory as another example for what is their problem, I actually knew, because I ran a podcast, all the back end tasks that you had to do. So what I presented to them, instead of like listing out all the tasks that will take off their plate, what I said to them, because most of them probably already understood it, you rock the mic, I handle the rest. So basically you show up and your only job is to record and send it over to us, and we handle the rest. And it made it easier for people to make a decision, because they were just like, I do want to just record. I don't want to create the captions. I don't want to edit out all my ums. I don't want to sit here and re-listen to an episode that I just recorded myself, et cetera, et cetera. So I knew all the work that they had to do, but I wasn't going to agitate that. I wanted to show them there was a world where they got to be the thought leader, just show up and record, and then we take on the rest. And it made it really simple for them to understand. All right, number 3, can they afford you? This one should have been number 1 in my opinion, but it can't be the basis for everything, but it is very, very important. Pricing and budgeting, are they high ticket or low ticket clients? You need to figure out where they are financially in their business journey so you don't waste time pitching to someone who can't afford your services. So when I decided to increase my podcast management rates and to work with high ticket clients, I stopped pitching to and directly reaching out to clients who I felt like this would be a disservice to them. And if they came to me, I would say, like, I know an individual podcast manager who isn't running an agency and can take on low ticket offers and currently edits at this rate right now. Make sure you understand how much they can afford. High ticket clients, they have an established business like agencies and coaches, will have a budget for outsourcing because they are used to it. They know what they're doing. It's like clockwork. You guys have heard me talk about my agency. Every time we needed to hire somebody else, I already understood what I needed them to do. I had SOPs set up and ready for them to join. I had training time and schedules planned out and mapped out for them because I knew what I needed. And that's what a high ticket client's going to feel like as a virtual assistant. So if that's what you more so want, that's more so your vibe, you need to look for those types of businesses and they need to be like a part of your ICA. And then there's low ticket clients. These are like newer entrepreneurs, sometimes influencers, because influencers revenue and like budget fluctuates based on what's going on in the market and how many like ads they've gotten or trips for travel influencers or how much money their content's actually making on TikTok or Instagram on its own. And they might just be bootstrapping and not always ready for long-term investments. So these low ticket clients are a good place to learn and a good place to test out skills. But they are hard to forecast as a part of your entire business model. So if you do want them to be a part of your ICA, you may have to like restructure, and we'll talk about services and packaging. You may have to restructure your offers to say like, here's a 3-month package because these kind of clients can't work like over long terms and periods. Here's a 3-month package for what I offer and they would love that. Or here's like a 30-day service offering, but you would just have to be okay with replacing that income over and over again for those type of low ticket clients. But you want to choose wisely. If you want to charge premium prices, you need to attract who can actually pay for it. So before you start to like set your actual pricing, choose between these two so you know if they can actually afford you. And if you want the low ticket clients, we want to think about that really hard when we start to talk about services and packaging. All right, number 4, first time hiring versus experienced clients. So have they ever hired a virtual assistant or an employee or someone like that in their business before? First time outsourcing clients often don't know these 3 things: how to communicate their needs, how to delegate properly without micromanaging, and then the importance of paying invoices on time. This one is pretty big. And first time outsourcing clients can be good. Like they can be good clients that you build a great relationship with because they have a lot of questions. They're often like in your face and they're like, they show up so much and sometimes so chaotically because they don't have good communication methods yet. But you have to know if you're willing to deal with a first timer, as you also are on your first time if you're listening to this series. So it may be hard if the two of you are both like, what do we do? What do we do? And it may feel like the blind leading the blind. But if you've done this a couple times and you're just now like refining your business as you listen to this podcast, try one out and see if you can help them grow. And if they fit other parts of your ICA pretty perfectly, but this one is like, have they hired or are they experienced? Try them out if they're inexperienced. Now, if your ideal client has never hired help before, be prepared to do more upfront education on how your process works, how they should prepare for working with you, and the importance of respecting your time and payments. So when we have an inexperienced client, they don't quite have all this stuff set up. So you present it to them. When I work with my clients, I show them exactly how to bring their clients along in the onboarding process and how to make it seamless for them. Even if they are experienced, I still say do the same thing so you get like similar results every time. But especially for brand new clients, like never delegated before in their life, you want to take them through every single step of what it's going to look like to work with you and make sure they're ready to go. All right, now let's talk about your next steps, the action items you're going to take away from today to like take some next steps in actually growing your virtual assistant business. If you don't have a clear ideal client profile, that's your homework. After this episode, start by answering the following questions. Who is your ideal client as a person? What kind of business do they run? Do they actually need your service? Can they afford your rates? And finally, have they hired someone before, or do they need extra education? Knowing these things will save you so much time, and it will attract the right people the first time, instead of you having to say yes to someone, let them go, say yes to somebody else and let them go too. Then you start to doubt yourself. You're like, is it me? No, the problem is it's not the right client, but we can get you to the right client. And it's the answer is not whoever is paying. That's never the answer when you're running a business, let alone a business when you're doing the work for them as a service provider. That thought process will never work, my friends. Okay. So if you need help figuring out your ideal client, book a free call with me. Let's talk about it. Let's clarify anything that you're not understanding on this podcast episode. If you love this episode, share it with some people. Share it with somebody else who's like, oh my God, I've been thinking about being a virtual assistant. And just be like, hey, yeah, my friend Fran on her podcast talks about this. And then let's stay connected. If you're not following me on Instagram, how did you find this podcast? Number one, I would love to know, but follow me at Fran S. Moore on Instagram. And then also watch on YouTube and leave some comments. All right. I love y'all. See y'all in the next episode.